What's going on, Zach? I'm waiting for a couple more to jump in for the live show tonight. We got a lot of topics to go through tonight, so hopefully everybody is doing well. I got my audio on. I was on the phone. I was trying to make a quick call real quick, answering that. So let's go ahead and looks like we got some people rolling in. So today, for the weekly show / the Daytona preview, we have the Netflix series Going to NASCAR being executively produced by The Last Dance and also by Dale Earnhardt Jr. Stewart Haas Racing is talking about selling off two of their charters for what seems to be right around $40 to $50 million reportedly. 2311, if you watched yesterday's video, is in talks with Ford. They did do that at Michigan. And are they possibly looking to add a third driver? And really the big question on my mind is Denny Hamlin going to be racing for Joe Gibbs Race? And all of that next on Stuck in the Catch Fence. Welcome in. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Zach, I hope you're staying safe from the taquitos that you dropped on the ground, or, well, actually the inclement weather. Hopefully you're doing all right, buddy. But we are live here for the weekly show. Make sure that you read into the chat. I'd like to know if you would rather us live stream tomorrow night for the Xfinity race, or if you would rather us do the live stream for the Cup race on Saturday. I'm curious to get your guys' input, so please let me know. So, again, we have a very, very busy show, so let's get on to it. Make sure you leave some questions in the chat or continue the conversation with everybody in there as well for this very, very warm Thursday in Southeast Indiana. It was 95 degrees today, so hopefully where you are, it is cool, and hopefully my air conditioner doesn't go kaput. So, the quick question to begin off the show: who could surprise at Daytona? That is the big question on my mind. We all are looking at Bubba Wallace. He is 30 points clear so far of the cut line. He could make it due to points. On the outside looking in, Ty Gibbs and Daniel Suarez could also make it with points if Bubba Wallace doesn't get any points in the stages and has an early exit. Outside of that, you're really looking for a win if you're one of the other drivers in the bottom of the standings. It is hard to believe that the final countdown has come. It is the last race of the regular season this Saturday, the Coke 0400 at Daytona. So, to answer the question myself, I'm going to go with Todd Gilliland. I think that Furniture Row Racing has shown speed at the very beginning of this sort of run 3 years ago, with Michael McDowell winning the Daytona 500. So I will go with Todd Gilliland when it comes to super speedway speed. Fords are on a roll right now, and I'm going to continue that and go with a blue oval and choose Todd Gilliland. At the end of the day, you want to choose somebody that you think, especially if you're going to bet this, that has really long odds or really high odds. And I remember not that long ago throwing $1 on Michael McDowell to win the Daytona 500, and he won me $100. So if we go ahead and look, I'm going to pull it up here on my phone and see exactly where we're looking at for Todd Gilliland. Last week I chose Alex Bowman. That was a mistake. But we will see where Gilliland is right now. Scrolling. Michael McDowell is plus 2,500. Those are great odds. Todd Gilliland is 6,000. So if you put down $10, you have a chance to win $600. That's not a bad day, especially to watch NASCAR. So those are something that I really like. Another driver that I think, I'm not going to say drivers' teams, and I'm going to stick with Ford again, RFK. You couldn't go wrong with Chris Buescher or Brad Keselowski. They were doing really, really well at the end of the Daytona 500, if you remember that race, and ended up getting into, the bad line. And then Daniel Suarez ends up wrecking Kyle Busch for that one to end. So I would say that RFK has a great chance as well. So that is my quick question. Who do you think could surprise us and find their way into the playoffs? Because remember, all you have to do is participate in every race unless you get a waiver like Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott, and you're in. I mean, literally, Cody, almost said Cody Ware. Anybody from Rick Ware Racing could get in. Anybody from Spire, Corey LaJoy could get in. I mean, it is that type of race that could literally turn the playoffs on its head. So that is the quick question. Let me know your thoughts as well. Let's go ahead and get into the news. Yes, there is plenty news afoot in the NASCAR world. Last couple weeks, it's been very bare. And now it seems like we've just really been hit with a ton of news here lately. So let's go ahead and start with something a little bit smaller, but something I also think is very neat. Netflix and NASCAR have both announced that they've partnered up, and the playoffs and championship race will be a sports docu-series releasing early next year. The producers behind The Last Dance, Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be an executive producer as well. We'll team up with the series and come with a docu-series. I know a lot of people are thinking, is this going to be like Drive to Survive? I think it's possible. I don't really know what kind of spin it would take. I think, obviously the emotions in NASCAR are much higher than that of Formula One. You actually will see somebody get in somebody's face. And, we could definitely see some surprises when it comes to wins. I mean, last year to begin the playoffs, we had drivers win that weren't even in the playoffs themselves. And, talking about those different things. And, it'd be crazy. Last year, we would have saw Hail Melon on the Netflix series if they were to do it last year. So I think it's really, really neat. I'll be watching. It won't be the same thing as like what not TNT, but USA put out last year and that championship drive. I watched like a couple episodes of it. It was mainly just going into, the drivers' lives and things of that nature, not really the racing part of it. So let me know what you guys think with the Netflix series. Hi, Truex fan. Hopefully you're having a wonderful Thursday evening. So next, and this is kind of big news. Stewart-Haas Racing is considering selling off 2 of its charters. And according to reports from PRN Radio and their staff, they are asking around $40 to $50 million. So the first question is, who doesn't have a ride next year? Well, according to the same report, Smithfield is out of NASCAR. And if Smithfield goes out of NASCAR, that means more than likely Eric Almirola goes out of NASCAR. So that's a big change for them, not having Eric Almirola. I mean, I think it's a change that a lot of people have been seeing for a while now. And I think that's why we haven't heard Eric Almirola announce whether or not he's going to be racing next year or not, because of waiting on the Smithfield deal. And we all have documented how poorly Stewart-Haas Racing has been this year compared to, RFK. Hell, even recently, Front Row Motorsports. So the next question, let's just go ahead and say that Eric Almirola is probably the given, 80%. Who would be next? Well, it's not Josh Berry. That's 100%. Josh Berry will be driving the number 4 car next year, unless they decide to switch numbers and mix things up. I mean, if they sell 2 charters, they technically could give away the number 4 if they wanted to. But Josh Berry will be driving next year. So then it comes down to Ryan Preece and Chase Briscoe. Now, Ryan Preece signed a deal to be the backup driver last year, didn't race at all, and then stepped into the Cole Custer's ride. So I'm not sure how long his deal is. It could have been a 2-year deal. It could have been a 3-year deal. He is on year 2 of it. And then there's Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe, the youngest out of the bunch, even younger than the new driver, rookie driver, kind of rookie because he's raced so much this year, Josh Berry. So if you were the ones managing Stewart-Haas Racing, who would you sell? Would you be willing to sell? Would you still want to be a 4 team? Or right now, there's even rumors that Tony Stewart is going to break away from Stewart Haas Racing. And Stewart Haas Racing could end up being what Haas Racing is to Formula One, which is a backmarker team very, very quickly. Probably something that Josh Berry wasn't really expecting, probably when he signed. But, it's silly season. There's been some crazy things going on. And right now, the teams have been talking about trying to get charters, and they just said there's just simply none available. And now this is literally the first news we've had in months of charters being available. So speaking of things being available, it sounds like 2311 is available for whichever manufacturer they want. Their deal with Toyota ends after this year, and they are looking possibly at moving somewhere else. Now, I talked about this yesterday in the NASCAR's Evil Empire video. So if you want a more in-depth breakdown of what I had to say in it, be sure to watch that video. A lot of you guys supported it really, really well over the last day, so I do appreciate that. So to me, this is hand in hand with Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has mentioned as well that he has not had a ride yet signed for next year. Now, he said on his podcast that he has it pretty much written in detail. The only thing it needs is his John Hancock, and it's not there. I think some of that might be true. I think the language could possibly be there, but I don't think he has a contract in hand just waiting for his signature. That's just me. At the same time, if you're 2311 and you're seeing the way that Toyota treats its other teams, and now reportedly Legacy Motor Club coming to Toyota has an alliance with Toyota, and Toyota does not give 2311 alliance. Its only alliance was with Joe Gibbs Racing, where they are treated like the fifth and sixth fiddle. Why would you not look at jumping ship? I mean, Ford has more drivers in the playoffs right now than any other manufacturer. Toyota currently has 4, with Bubba Wallace being 5. Chevy has 5. And Ford has 6 as of today, Thursday. So if you're 2311, would you look at possibly shipping out and going to the Blue Oval? That's a big question. That's a big if. That completely changes the landscape of Toyota. And I've been on this show before and said Toyota had to do something to get its numbers up to remain competitive. But like I alluded to yesterday, Joe Gibbs Racing's the evil empire. That seems like whatever deal they struck with Toyota is they get all of the resources or a majority of the resources. And nobody's wanting to go to Toyota. And now we're talking about teams leaving Toyota to possibly go to Ford. So it's an interesting development. I didn't think we'd be here in year 3 of 2311, year 3 or 4. But at the end of the day, when you see what's going on around everywhere else, it makes a lot of sense. So, and that leads us right to our last piece of news. Just mentioned it a second ago. Denny Hamlin still doesn't have a ride. He still doesn't have a contract for next year. And again, going back to my conversation piece yesterday, we haven't seen FedEx on the car for almost 3 months. Does that mean FedEx is out? If FedEx is out, we've seen how Joe Gibbs' loyalty runs with his drivers. He does not pay for them to stay. He won't. He literally let 2-time champion right behind me go because of sponsorship. Whether that's them doing the due diligence to find it or not. And I honestly think that Joe Gibbs is just writing it out for maybe a year or 2 more, and then he's done. And that's why he doesn't put in the effort anymore to get sponsorships. I think he's getting up there in age. He doesn't feel like talking to other teams, and he's leaving the teams to try to find their own sponsors. And I think that this is putting a strain on the drivers at Joe Gibbs. The thing about Martin Truex is he's got Johnny Morris backing him, and he's got Auto Trader. Christopher Bell, DeWalt / Stanley, Craftsman, Ream. He's got these sponsors backing. Those guys don't have to worry about it. But Denny Hamlin only had FedEx primarily. He'd sprinkle in sports clips or sprinkle in, this year Interstate Batteries. But outside of Eminem, who left last year, FedEx was like the longest tenured sponsor when it came to the amount of races that they would sponsor as a primary sponsorship. If that's gone, which I can't tell you it is or it isn't, I'm just saying I've never noticed this. Or I just have noticed that Mavis tire and brake or whatever it is has been on the car for a long time. And this is probably the least we've ever seen FedEx on the 11 car. So if FedEx is scaling back, is Joe Gibbs willing to commit to Denny Hamlin, an older driver, or does he say, unless you find your own money, we'll just bring in John Hunter Nemechek? And that's definitely a possibility, because John Hunter Nemechek would go to Joe Gibbs Racing before he'd ever go to Legacy Motor Club. Again, the Empire gets their guy. They kick off the old Sith Jedi to the curb to get the new apprentice. And Legacy Motor Club would then get the full Joe Gibbs treatment, and not even in their first year. Their first off-season, silly season. So it'll be interesting. Looks like we do have a chat from Truex. Truex fan says that Denny has a Kyle situation. I agree with you, bud. I agree with you 100%. Make sure you read the comment that is posted at the top of the chat and let me know, guys, if you would rather have us stream the Xfinity race tomorrow night or the Saturday night's Cup race. If you got time for either one to jump in and want to have a good time, let me know, and we'll try to see what we can get done. But that is it for the news. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's race preview at Daytona. All right, everybody. Ooh, John Forster, this is stupid rumors. What rumors are stupid, John? Truex fan says he would like tomorrow night's race to be streamed. This is the Xfinity race. But, John, what rumors are you referring to that you think are stupid? So while I wait for him, obviously this is the last race of the regular season. Mentioned it in the quick question at the beginning of the show that only 3 drivers have a chance to point themselves in without a win. Bubba Wallace, Ty Gibbs, Daniel Suarez. For Ty Gibbs or Daniel Suarez to point their way in, Bubba Wallace has to have a catastrophic injury, pretty much get no stage points at the beginning of this race, and find himself kicked out. Outside of that, anybody else has to win their way in, and don't matter if you're in 17th place or in last place, you can have a chance in the playoffs with a victory. So heading into Daytona, what do I expect? Unfortunately, with this new car, everything but the mile and a half have been affected, Daytona being one of them. This is no longer the day where your guy could sit in the back 25th spot and then with 5 laps to go, look to work his way into the field to get into some stage points. It's much harder to pass now. There's that buffer we talk about. Same thing you saw on the road courses with cars trying to pass each other. The only reason why Atlanta has been working better is because there's times you have to let out of the gas, and when you let out of the gas, that third bottom lane works. Unfortunately, at Daytona, we haven't really seen it work yet. Could it be better now that they're getting more of a handle on the cars? Possibly. Will it? Probably not. So I am fully expecting the Xfinity Series race tomorrow night to be an absolute blast. And I'm expecting the Cup Series race to probably be disappointing compared to what we typically are used to when it comes to the tapered spacer or, what the old saying was with the restrictor plates. So I do see that we have a chat right here. The stupid rumor, SHR going down to 2 cars. Wrecks happen. That's what's going to happen at Daytona. Truex fan, you're probably right about that. Zach says Friday, Saturday, he'll be likely either missing in action or in Miami. I'm going to probably go with missing in action. John, I don't think it's a stupid rumor. I think that the source was credible. I think you could say it could be an unlikely rumor, but I don't know how stupid it is. If Eric gets out early, then there is Zane Smith and SHR is Ford and 4 cars until 2025. I get it that they are struggling, except Kevin Harvick's leadership. John, the only thing that I can say, and again, this is silly season. This is the same thing that people last year would have said that there's no chance that Kyle Busch leaves. So I would be full on with you in your questioning of how credible this information is. But now in 2023, I doubt nothing. So I will give credence. I'm just reporting what is being told, and I'm giving the pathways for those things to happen. Now, if you wanted me to give a percent of SHR going down from 4 to 2 teams, I think the only way that happens is if Tony Stewart leaves at Stewart-Haas Racing. And the probability of that, I would put at 30%. If he leaves Stewart-Haas Racing, then I think the probability of them selling is like 75%. So those are the things that I think lead to these things being talked about. And I agree with you 100% that Zane Smith, if Eric Almirola doesn't have sponsorship, then Zane Smith should be looking at Stewart-Haas. But at the same time, he could also be looking at, the 31 car. I mean, this year, is Stewart-Haas Racing that much different than Colleague? Not for most of the drivers. They're all right there. I mean, Justin Haley has just as good a shot to win Saturday as Chase Briscoe at this point. Why leave Ryan Preece, give him another year to that Tony guy who brought him up? I understand what you're saying. But Ryan Preece has had his chance in NASCAR before. Granted, it was with lower teams. I just don't think people view him as a high prospect. And he hasn't done enough this year to really say that he's worth keeping. If you got a talent like Zane Smith, who Chip Ganassi was going to put in a NASCAR ride 2 years ago, then I think Ryan Preece is going to be expendable. That's just my thoughts. Chip Ganassi obviously didn't put him in a ride because Chip Ganassi sold his team to Trackhouse. Instead, put Ross Chastain in a ride. So I hear where you're coming from. But I think if Ryan Preece does lose his ride, then he will probably be done in NASCAR. I mean, we're looking at drivers like Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, and possibly a few others just knocking on the door of getting into the Cup Series. I would have said Austin Hill, but he actually signed back with RCR in the Xfinity ride. So if you are telling me to choose between Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, and John Hunter Nemechek, but over with Ryan Preece is behind all of those based upon what we've seen so far. I mean, I actually like Todd Gilliland, what he's done this year, more than I like Ryan Preece at Furniture Row Racing. And maybe they think about going to a third team. I don't really know. Maybe they merge. Maybe with the success of Furniture Row Racing, they merge with Stewart-Haas Racing or something of that nature. I don't know. Again, it's silly season. Anything is possible. So I do appreciate the questions and leading on to the conversation as well. So, and the only reason why they give up Ryan Preece, like I said, John, is Tony Stewart leaving. I think the only reason why they go down to 2 cars is if Tony Stewart leaves. So if Tony Stewart leaves, then that gives the opportunity to whoever Gene Haas wants to stay in those 2, with Tony Stewart no longer having a leading voice. But back to the the Coke Zero 400. I'm used to the Pepsi 400. But the Coke Zero 400, I already said that my dark horse in the quick question is going to be Todd Gilliland. I like the way that Furniture Row Racing has had speed at the super speedways. I think they've showed speed there before they worked on their road course package. And my dark horse throw would be Todd Gilliland. Choosing my 5 drivers. Number 1, I'll go Kyle Busch because I fully believe he should have won the Daytona 500 if Daniel Suarez didn't wreck him. Then I'll go RFK. Both of those drivers were really, really, really fast. And, Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski have looked really good. And again, they showed speed at super speedways before they showed speed anywhere else. So it seems kind of like the Fords definitely had that package down first and then worked their way into the intermediates and short track / road courses as well. So I would take both RFK drivers with Kyle Busch. From there, it gets really interesting. I think you probably have to go Bubba Wallace. But how much does Bubba Wallace, how does he handle this pressure? Does he second guess himself in traffic? Does he try to force the issue? Those are things that Bubba Wallace has never done. I mean, he's made the playoffs, but we're talking about an opportunity to make the playoffs, where he didn't just, he's got an opportunity to make the playoffs and advance in the playoffs by winning this race, or not even winning this race, by putting himself in. Has he ever had that type of pressure in his entire career? I don't think so. So that being said, I earlier predicted Bubba Wallace to make the playoffs, and I'm going to stand by that. So I think Bubba Wallace, both RFK, Kyle freaking Busch, and my last driver, we usually take somebody outside the top 20, and, I'm going to take Todd Gilliland for that as well. John Forrester. So what if the rumors are true and 2311 goes to Ford, put Denny Hamlin in the 10 car? That's possible. I talked about that a second ago. So if you want to go back and watch that, feel free to. And also you said, well, smoke better not. I get we are bad and we have flashes, and I get that we are losing a Kevin Harvick, and after this and go out with a bang. And no, he is very good at Phoenix. I do agree with that. And I think him making the playoffs is good. But again, you're also talking about Kevin Harvick, who made it based on points. He hasn't made it based on a win. They need to show winning speed in places that, he's dominated before, like Richmond, like Darlington a few years ago. He just hasn't shown that. So something is going on there. I mean, I'm not a Kevin Harvick fan, never have been, but at the same time, I also like a good story and would not be upset if he did make a deep playoff run. But do they realistically have the speed to win a championship? I just simply don't see it. So again, let me know what you guys think. Comment below. And if you like what you've heard, if you enjoy these videos, let me know. We like to do live streams so we can communicate with you. I did talk to Joe earlier. It looks like he is trying to get some more availability through his busy schedule to jump in as well. If you want to show Joe some love, let me know. If you still want us to have our own separate videos as well, where you enjoy me having a separate video, or would like to see Joe do a separate video, or if you would rather us do videos together, let us know. We're always looking to better the product here at Stuck in the Catch Fence, and more importantly, keep you guys entertained. So that's going to do it. Subscribe if you would like to. It is free. And I will send out probably a poll or a message regarding which race I'll attempt to stream, whether it's the Xfinity Series tomorrow night or the Cup Series on Saturday. But that is going to do it for me here at Stuck in the Catch Fence. My name is Ryan Peters. We'll see you next time.